Hi, this is Jason Fielder with the Daily Forex Report for February 8th. We are looking at the U.S. Japanese yen pair first. This particular pair, let me size the chart real quick. This particular pair, we're looking for it to move as high as 93.03 and on the low side 98.64. Now we are looking for some resistance at 92.02 and looking for support at 91.29. This pair formed an inside bar today or in Friday's session, gap down on the open, so we could see a breakout of this session's high. We came within 4 pips of tagging the high, so if you took the overextended bar trade, you should have grabbed at least 80 pips between that high at the beginning of the session that we marked all the way up to a little bit below the low. You know, I'd mentioned that I didn't think it would go all the way because it was such a large room, basically a large amount of pips to make up or to move through. But had you dropped it down a little bit, like I suggested, by 4 pips, you would have hit the high at that point, and you could have took out of the market about 80 pips out of there. So hopefully that was the case. But we could have a breakout because it's an inside bar. Not really tracking that one though. Looking at the Euro USD pair, this particular pair looking for it to move as high as 1.3124, as low as 1.2608. Look for some resistance around 1.2993. Look for support around 1.2900. In this particular pair. This pair is moving sideways for the most part. It did close up on Friday's session, but the bias is sideways at this point. And as you can see, the market did gap up on the open. There's a 89.1% chance that it will retrace that gap prior to Friday's session being over with. Now switching over to the pound USD, we have a pair that we're expecting to move as high as 150.03 and as low as 143.79. We're also looking for resistance at 148.96 and looking for support around 146.98 in this particular pair. This pair did move higher on Friday. I believe this pair is moving higher and the bias is to the upside at this point. Now switching over to the US Swiss, this particular pair closed down on Friday. I believe it is still moving sideways, and the bias is to move sideways as well. This pair gapped down on the open. Chances are that it will retrace prior to the close on Friday. Now we are expecting this pair to move as high as 1.1845 and as low as 1.1489. Look for some resistance around 1.1650. and look for support around 115.66 in this particular pair. Now, kind of what I'm looking for during this next session, we have the Australian US dollar pair created an inside bar, an overextended bar during Friday. There's about 33 pips worth of movement there. Not a whole lot. I like to see at least over 50, so be cautious about this one. However, we do have a sizable gap that has occurred, and currently it's moving a little bit lower. So my thought is, if we actually retrace the gap and get a break of the previous close by say 2 pips, 1 or 2 pips, somewhere around the 0.6766 area, maybe the 67 area, that we could get a run up and look to exit at around the 0.6799 area. Or 98. There's roughly about 33 pips there, but do realize that's a small amount. If you're using a 1-to-1 risk to reward ratio, that gives the market only 33 pips to move during that time. Now another overextended trade that we're looking at for this next session is the Euro Australian dollar. This pair kind of did the same exact thing, just in the opposite direction, except it has a lot more room for movement. We have an overextended bar that has been identified. We have a gap up, so assuming that this pair moves lower, and we may not get it this session, but if we do get it This session, we could see it go through there. Go ahead and look to short at 1.9097 and look to exit this particular trade at around the 1.9018 area. That's approximately 79 pips worth of movement. Use a risk to reward ratio of 1 to 1. We should see this happen if it does in fact close the gap during this next session. Well, that about does it as far as what I'm looking for during this next session. No real swing trades going. We do have an inside bar in the US yen, but haven't really looked at that too much for this next session anyway. As far as news announcements, we have the Swiss releasing their CPI for January. That's being released at 3:15 a.m. And the consensus is that it has dropped from negative 0.5% to negative 0.4% for January, which would be good news for the Swiss. Year to date, they're showing a drop of 0.7% to 0.6%. So that's kind of what we're looking at on that. The U.S. has Bernanke testifying for the federal program at the House panel at 1 p.m. tomorrow, and that should move the markets. But it's it's not really a news announcement; it's more of the what is he going to say kind of deal. I typically don't trade those, but we should get some market movement during that time. So it's a good time to be trading in general. If you have a good breakout system or a good trend system and the market starts to move, it's a good opportunity to trade. I'm just not specifically trading off that news, if that makes sense. Well, that about does it for today. Until next time, this is Jason Fielder. Good trading.